I had to get this video off though, man. Correction officer video. This one right here, it might hit hard for some people, so bear with me, stay strong with me, But, working in corrections, right? If you work in this field long enough, you bound to experience death, homicide. I done seen it all. I've been doing it, 14 years, right? And even when I first started, I was only 4 months into correction. I found an inmate that had committed suicide. I was the first person. I seen it with my own eyes. He took a shoestring, right? He tied it to the inside of his food slot on his cell somehow, sat down and hung himself like that. He did it in between me doing my rounds. I was working night shift, right? I'm only 4 or 5 months into the job, 21 at the time, I'm about to finish college, I'm working nights at the jail, I'm in my field. So, right, I see all this, and my first initial reaction when I seen the body, because I had, the officer up in the tower had to push the button to open the cell door. So when the cell door opened, his body flopped out, he was blue in the face, body stiff. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I had never seen nothing like that, bro. Like I said, I'm a rookie, few months into the job. You know what I'm saying? Anything can go down at any time. I literally ran out the unit. I ain't even gonna lie to you. It was on the top tier. His body was right in front of me, from me to get to the stairs. I jumped over his body, no lie. I swear to God, ran out the unit. I was about halfway up the hallway before I finally got some composure. Got on my radio and called for some medical assistance up there. The officers responded, pumping his chest. He was gone. He was gone, though. But like I said, you bound to experience death. I done seen that. I done seen so many co-workers, right, pass away, unfortunately. And at the prison I'm at alone, right, I've been there since 2015 at my current prison. We done had so many staff, die from car accidents. We had 3 staff members die in motorcycle accidents. It was one of them was so crazy, right? It was a husband and wife that worked at the prison I'm at, right? They both died at the same time. They was riding on a motorcycle. Something happened. They got hit by a van. I guess I don't know all the details, but they both died, bro. Like that. Just like that. And it be hitting you so hard because some of these people, you seen them a day or two before they die. It's 1 minute they hear everything good and a good mood, bro. Next minute they gone. We just had a staff member pass away. It's been a week and a half now. I was I just seen, bro, a few days ago. All good, solid dude, bro. I'm talking about always in a good mood. You know what I'm saying? Never was disgruntled, bro. Every time I run into him, he relieving me or we passing each other in the hallway. He was a solid dude, man. He was a good, I don't know if he had a medical issue, but we done had so many staff suicides over the year. We lost a few staff members to COVID, medical issues like heart attacks. My last prison I worked at, I was only there 2 years. I think they had a couple people that died. I was like, man, I'm looking online and I see a notice about a staff member death. I'm like, damn, this shit crazy. But the one that really hit me the hardest, no lie, was my dog, God rest his soul, James Elliott, bro. He had ended up committing suicide, right? And it really bothered me. It really bothered me because it was probably a year or two. We worked the same unit on night shift. He was on a unit across from me. And we always would be out in the hallway kicking the shit, laughing, joking after we counted, did what we had to do. We was always out in the hallway, like I said, just talking about life, bro. He was a funny ass dude. I knew he had some problems at home, with his family. He had a big drinking problem. He used to drink damn near every day. And it was bro, it got to the point where one time he just stopped coming to work. Nobody heard from him. I heard that a couple dudes that I work with, they went to his crib, to try to see if he was all right. He just stopped coming, and they went to his crib and he got kind of hostile, I guess, at the front door. So they left. And it was nobody never heard from him again. I tried reaching out a couple times because he was really my dog, bro. I really rocked with Buddy, this shit crazy right here. No lie, bro. He set this shit up, bro, to where we went on a double date one time. He threw me an alley-oop, it was a chick and her sister. They was both good looking. And we went out on a date to Kickback Jacks. had a good old time, bro. That was the type of dude he was. He's a solid dude, you know, and it was like nobody heard from him for like damn near a year. And then one day I'm walking into work with somebody else, you know, we walking up the hallway to, you know, to our unit. And he was like, yo, you heard what happened to Elliot? I was like, nah, what happened to Elliot, man? He ended up committing suicide, bro. He was like, he moved back home to South Carolina. I guess things just spiraled even more out of control. And he ended up committing suicide. I was like, man, that really ate me up, though. That really touched me. I was like, damn, bro. Like, we used to really be out in the hallway, bro, just kicking the shit, having a good old time. You would have thought we was on the block or on the porch, bro, just smoking a cigar, having drinks, bro, just kicking the breeze, you know, enjoying life, bro. But that's how it be. You work in this field long enough, you bound to experience some type of death, bro, even from the inmates, you know, and from your co-workers, bro. You know, I remember it's a lot of inmates that end up dying at the prison I'm at because we a hospital medical center, right? So, you know, one time I had to fingerprint a dead body. You know, that's part of the process when the inmates, you know, they at the end of the road, they end up dying. We got to fingerprint the body, take pictures and stuff, get all their property, call the mortuary services to come in and get the body, this and that, bro. And it was like, man, I wasn't even up to, you know, doing the fingerprint. Luckily, you know, the nurses that was on that unit, they helped me with the fingerprints. You know, I took the pictures. We put the body in the body bag, you know, put them on the gurney. We got inmate orderly companions that help assist with that. We rolled the body down to the morgue, to the mortuary services guy here, you know, and that's that, bro. You know, even when I first transferred to this prison, you know, I had never experienced no really like death like that working in corrections. You know, most of the prisons I've been at, most of the inmates are healthy. So I'm working on the floor where a lot of the inmates die, right? And, you know, that was like my first week I had transferred here. You know, somebody called me on the phone. I'm in the officer station. Somebody called me, yo, we just had an inmate die. So I get into like, what? Like crazy, like panic mode, because I'm thinking somebody got stabbed, some shit like that. Well, I go over there to the cell, you know, the doctors, nurses in there, they in there removing the IVs and stuff. It was expected. You know, I was new to this prison, so, you know, I just transferred here, only been like a week. So I wasn't, like I said, used to inmates dying like that. But we get deaths all the time, bro. Cancer patients, you know, at the end of the road, you know, you get a life sentence. You get a life sentence in a lot of cases. So it is what it is. They got a hospice unit where I work at, bro. So the inmate's family can come in. They can visit the inmate, you know, while he in hospital, you know, end of the road. That's how serious this shit is, bro. You know, we all human. You know, we all react differently to death. Nobody wants to go to funerals. Nobody wants to have to deal with death, but death is all coming. It's all of us is coming for it. You know, it's nothing we could do. Only thing you could really do is to try to live your life to the best of your ability. You know, working in corrections, expect the unexpected, bro. You could go in your first day on the job, bro. Inmate get stabbed to death. You know what I'm saying? Inmate get thrown over the top tier. You might be like how I was, man. Inmate, you find an inmate, hey, you just never know. That's just how it goes, bro. So I'm trying to give y'all realistically, you know, what to expect, bro. You work in this field long enough, you got to look at the numbers. It's a lot of staff members that work in correction. Where I'm at alone, the prison I'm at, it's a big complex. We probably got like 1,500 staff. So, you know, like I said, you work there long enough, people are bound to die. Even people after they retire, bro. I've seen so many staff members where I'm at, right? They retired, ain't even been like a year or two, bro. They had a heart attack, died in their 50s, 60s. I'm like, bro, this life shit, it really be hitting, bro, you know. But it's a part of it, you know. Only thing you could do is stay strong. You got to stay strong. You know, I know it all hits us differently, you know, but I try to think positive. I try to remember the good times that I had with that staff member, you know, try to remember them in a happy headspace. You know what I'm saying? And I would like to think, you know, that staff member, they're no longer here with us. They will want me to keep going. You know, you got to keep going. You know, get help if you need help. It's so many resources available to us working in corrections. You know, they always, every time something bad happens, like a staff member, you know, unfortunately passing away or something crazy going on, they activate the team. It's like what they call that, employee assistance program team, EAP. They come around the whole prison. They talk to every staff member, make sure everybody's doing good. Make sure, like if you need to talk to somebody, we're here for you, bro. So like I said, if you need to talk to somebody, if you need a moment, you know what I'm saying? The sergeants, lieutenants, the supervisor, they pretty understanding, bro, because they know, death hits us all differently, especially when they got to make that conference call. That just happened, like I said, a week and a half ago. They did a conference call. We all got on the phone. It was the warden on the phone, and he was explaining the situation. Officer passed away. He was getting all the details, letting us know when the funeral was going to be. I wasn't able to make the funeral, but it was a lot of staff members that made it to the funeral. I seen some of the pictures on Facebook. It was a big turnout, so I know his family, I know they loved that, bro. That he had a lot of, support from his co-workers, and they showed up, for his final send-off. So I know that was a beautiful thing. I wish I could have made it, but hey, man, like I said, I would think that, all the people that are no longer with us, they would want us to keep going, trying to do the job to the best of our ability, and to try to remember them in a good, positive light. That's how I want to be. If I was to unfortunately, untimely, pass away, I want y'all to remember the good. Remember, if I made you feel good, how I made you feel, I made you smile, I motivated you, inspired you, I don't want you to be sad, just remember me for the good times that we had, the good memories, bro, and you got to keep going, that's one thing about life, life goes on, you got to keep going, so that's what I'm going to do. If you've been working in correction and you experience, staff members passing away, I know you probably can relate. Like I said, if you're going through the hiring process, you just got hired, you work in this field long enough, bro, it's bound to occur at some point, bro. You just gotta, grieve how you grieve, take your time, reach out to somebody if you need help, and just keep living, bro. That's the best thing I can tell you. Keep living, bro. That's all. And we all have experienced death, even outside of corrections, family members. I just lost my aunt, back in August. You know what I'm saying? I got to go up, fly back home, while she was in the hospice, and try to, remember all the good, family all gathered around. We had to bury her. That was pretty troubling times, but like I said, I try to remember all the memories I had with her. I done lost a lot of family members. I'm sure y'all done lost a lot of family members. It won't be the first time and it won't be the last time, bro. It's just a part of life. It's inevitable, you just got to deal with it the best you can. Like I said, keep living, keep going. Y'all like this video, though, make sure you subscribe to my channel at The Ghetto Bodybuilder. Follow me on IG, TikTok at The Ghetto Bodybuilder. I got the merchandise for sale. Tap in with me on my website. I want to know y'all's thoughts, how y'all feel about this video. If you lost somebody, share that story with us. Maybe you could share how you were able to overcome that and keep going, keep doing your job. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, at the end of the day, we all human. We all react, to things differently, and our emotions run high. Some days we might be good, some days we might be bad, and it all hits us all differently. I ain't gonna come on here and pretend like I have no emotions, bro. I'm one of the most emotional persons you will ever meet. Sometimes I get emotional and it ain't even nothing wrong. I just get excited about life. I just get passionate, fired up about life, and sometimes I might be reflective and I think about sad times that happen in my life, bro. I might shed a tear. I'm just being real. This is me all the way being myself, bro. Not coming on here, blowing smoke up y'all's ass, pretending or nothing like that, bro. But yeah, keep living. All the message to all the people, that's just getting started. You going through the hiring process. I wish y'all nothing but the best. I love to see when people tell me they got hired, they finally made it, they finally got the call back. My video's been helping you. That's why I do it. That's why I do this, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want to see, as many people come in, you might never even thought of corrections, till you saw one of my videos, or you may have been on the fence about it. If I could persuade you, convince you to come on board, bro, you got the right mindset, the right attitude to do the job, bro, I'm here. We're going to keep dropping the video. I got plenty more in the pipeline, bro. I'm far from done. As long as I got air in my body, I'm going to keep pushing this agenda, keep pushing this mission. I will not stop. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated. Boom.